So it seems appropriate that just after I reviewed Need for Speed Unbound, I would be sitting here discussing one of Criterion's earlier releases. This is Burnout Paradise, what would become the final Burnout game in the series. It would be dormant for many years after that. In fact, they would remaster this game for the PS4 and Xbox One, but this is the original version running on the PlayStation 3 that I played. I bought this game for my collection way before the remastered was even announced and released. And so when I decided to play the game, I thought it'd be a kind of cool nostalgia trip to actually go back and see what the original version of the game was like running on the original hardware. And I was an original Burnout fan, right? I played the very first game on the PS2. I played its sequel, played the third game. I even played the games on PSP. I had played every game in the franchise, but wouldn't you be surprised to know that I actually never played Paradise? I'm not really sure why that is the case. I was very much aware of this game's release, and I remember seeing a lot of people talking about this. This game got really good reviews at the time. But, you know, I just gotten into the 7th generation. I got my PlayStation 3 for Christmas in 2007, and I got Uncharted Drake's Fortune as my first PS3 game, and the PS3 I got was the 80GB MotorStorm bundle. So I had games to play, but for whatever reason, this game, when it released a month later, I just never got around to it. I think I always had that intention, but yeah, just for some reason, I just never came around to actually getting this game and playing it during its time of launch. I had heard for many years that this is one of the best racing games that released during the 7th generation. Tons of hours people had logged into this game. And of course, this was an innovative release for the Burnout franchise. They were taking it into an open world structure, which the series had never been before, and gave you basically free reign to go about and crash your car, participate in races. In fact, this game has a very non-linear style structure to it. The way in which you do events is so unorthodox. I can't remember any game that's actually had this level of progression before, but basically you have to find events outright. You drive up to any intersection in the game, any crossroads, and then you can basically start the event that's at that intersection. But the game doesn't tell you about the events prior. You basically are going in blind, and what's really interesting is that you're racing against opponents to an objective marker, but there's no waypoints. There's nothing here guiding you along the way. You basically have to just get there as fast as possible by any means necessary. In fact, when I first played this game, I was so used to sort of the modern handicaps that games today provide. You know, everything has an objective marker, everything has a waypoint. You understand where you're going. In this game, you're basically traveling across these dense urban streets and industrial alleys at well past 100 miles an hour, and you have no idea when a turn is coming up whether or not you should take it, whether that path is quicker or the longer route. It presents this really interesting challenge because it forces you to learn the map. And in fact, when I was playing this game, many times you can pause the game and actually take a look at the map in a sort of full view. And I had to do that, and it got to the point where I was finally memorizing the map. And so when a lot of these races sort of cross paths with other events, I would understand the route that I was on, which road to take, etc., and so forth. It's a very unorthodox way of handling racing, and there's no hand-holding whatsoever. It's actually quite a refreshing take on the genre, still playing it to this day. But the map itself is a decent size. There's tons of different streets and a different change in art direction as well. You'll be traveling through mountains, city streets, more industrial open areas. There's actually a good amount of variety in here, and I think all the tracks and just the design of the streets and everything like that is laid out extremely well. Now, graphically, you're looking at the game right now, and it's pretty damn attractive. This is a early 7th generation game running at 720p on the PS3, but at 60 frames per second, and the frame rate is buttery smooth. It's a very, very impressive game, and you can tell that even though they were transitioning to an open world gameplay loop with Burnout Paradise, Criterion didn't compromise at all regarding the core values of what made the Burnout franchise great. And that ultra responsive control scheme, that buttery smooth frame rate is still very much a part of this game, even though it is a more open world like game. And just to see a game of this scale running at this pace with all these effects going on as well, I mean, they still retain the glorious Burnout crashes, tons of post-processing, all these parts and particles flying around, and all that just operates so smoothly. So it's really a testament to the great technology and talent that Criterion has as developers, and why still to this day they're some of the best in the industry when it comes to the technical achievements and stylistic choices for their games. The soundtrack also deserves mention here. You got a great selection of tracks that are, from the era itself, but honestly, these are still great to listen to today. The action heats up. You got great, more cinematic music as well. And I just think the game does a really good job of giving you that sort of adrenaline feeling when you're doing these races. A big thing that I appreciate in this game is the way that the AI is handled. Now, the game is challenging and has these challenging moments. Again, the challenge comes in the form of you needing to figure out the best route to your objective, but you're also racing against other AI components. And they don't take the same path, by the way. These guys will go off the rails and go to different paths. You'll come to a crossroads at points. Half the people will go in one direction, the other half in the other. And you're sitting there wondering, like, what's the best route do I take? And you have to make these sort of split-second decisions. And what I like about this game is that it makes the AI vulnerable to these mistakes as well. Plenty of times they'll crash into traffic, they'll lose control, they'll fight against each other. And I feel like the game is well balanced, and it creates a sort of tension that this game really needs. And without it, I don't think it would even be close to the same experience. You also have a great selection of cars that just come with the stock game. There's also DLC if you want to get more vehicles, and these are still valid. You can still purchase this on the store. However, I think the remastered version of the game comes with all the content, if I'm not mistaken. But, typical of the Burnout franchise, you have these more fantasy-oriented cars that are sort of inspired from the more realistic automobiles that we have in our day-to-day lives. I think the selection of cars is fantastic. The handling profile is varied between all vehicles, so it doesn't feel like you're racing the same car, even if they're going at the same speed. Each car has its own strengths, and you'll definitely walk away with some of your favorites depending on what your driving style is. I think to summarize here, what makes this game so great and why people still love it to this day and why it's such a classic, why they remastered this game in the first place. And this is something I only realized when I played the game, and it's the same takeaway I had when I played Elden Ring earlier in 2022. What makes Paradise so great is that it's the pinnacle of the Burnout franchise. It's the perfection of the genre itself. It took the Burnout formula, expanded it, with no compromise whatsoever to its visual integrity, its sound design, its car selection, and it took a chance without the hand-holding that so many games of today have. And what's come out of it is this timeless classic that's still fun to play and still refreshing 15 years later. And the original game, despite not being the remastered version, you're seeing it on screen right now, still looks really, really good. There's really no complaints that I have with this game. If you're a fan of the Burnout franchise, this is as good as it gets. I understand a little bit more now why the series has gone dormant, even though I am sad that we still don't have the Burnout franchise to this day. Again, the same way in which I thought about Elden Ring when I played it, what more can be done to this franchise? Like, what's the next step? And I think what Criterion did here is they created a perfect version of the series. It's gone as far as it could go. The only thing you could do is go bigger, and as far as gameplay innovations go, I'm not really sure what the next step would be from Paradise other than just a larger world and more cars and stuff, and it just feels like a small iterative step. But I think they did a great job in terms of taking the franchise to new heights, new directions. And when you're playing this with the mindset that this came out in early 2008, from a technical perspective, this game is phenomenal. Again, no compromises here whatsoever to the core of what makes Burnout so great. And so I feel that anyone can play this during any time, and I think it's why they remastered the game and released it for, the last generation of systems, is that you can play this still to this day, and it still holds up and it still feels good, and they don't even have to do anything. Again, the original game that I'm playing here right now still handles so well. So it was great to finally cross this one off my playlist. Again, I had played all the Burnouts in the series up to this point. For whatever reason, I just never got around to this, and now I'm kicking myself about not playing this earlier, because I would have liked to have played it when it was relevant. I probably would have had a blast with it. But that's what's great about game collecting is, you can always go back to these experiences, and a lot of these games can really take you back to those moments that a lot of us remember when we were a lot younger during these times. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you played the original Burnout Paradise or if you played the remaster that was released last gen, and let me know what you guys think. I'm actually really excited to return to the earlier games in the franchise and do reminiscing videos on those at some point, because I would bet that they still hold up well to this day, even given their age. For now, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.